Rayner told the Commons today, "I've agreed to postpone local elections in East Sussex and West Sussex, Essex and Thorpe, Hampshire, and the Isle of Wight and Norfolk and Suffolk. I've also agreed for the postponement in Solemn, given the urgency of creating sustainable new unitary structures and to unlock devolution for this area. We are postponing elections for 1 year, from May 2025 to May 2026. Some 5 million Britain are set to lose their votes this year, sparking outrage from Parliament." In today's video, we will watch and react as an MP goes in on her for Labour lies and socialist construct. But first, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more British content.
Can I thank the Deputy Prime Minister for her statement in advance sight of it. Although supportive of the principle of devolving power to local areas, we are totally against her plans to abolish every county council and every district council in England, and the unprecedented mass postponement of local elections for at least 1 year. Today is a very worrying day for democracy in this country. She is making local government less accountable to the people and more accountable to her. Contrary to the Deputy Prime Minister's statement, she is not doing away with a two-tier system. She is simply creating a new tier of Orwellian-sounding strategic authorities, which are closer to her and closer to Whitehall. And these are for her to use as a pawn to implement this government's deeply unpopular socialist agenda. The reality is that this is delegation, not devolution, but a clear centralisation. As Dr. Andy Mycock of Leeds University sets out in his recent paper on her plans, there are clear concerns about the potential power drain of backbench local councillors if local government is seen increasingly as a delivery agent. Let us be clear, this announcement is a huge upheaval of local government right across the country, but this was not a government manifesto commitment, and she has no mandate for it. These are her choices, and she has put a gun to the head of local councils to force them into a decision with little regard for local people. This is not the invitation she claims in her statement, it is an instruction. No council should be bullied or blackmailed into local government restructuring. Local government should be local to residents and respect local identities. We have a proud record of supporting devolution where we worked with local people and delivered devolution from the ground up rather than this top-down approach. The government tried to claim that they were taking a bottom-up approach. Indeed, the Minister for Local Government said exactly that on the floor of this House on the 20th of January. Yet, in her very statement, she admits that all two-tier areas should be making plans to move to simpler structures. Whitehall diktats imposed on local people rather than the locally led approach we followed, which are prone to problems, especially when rushed. So the questions I have for the Deputy Prime Minister: how exactly does it put more money in people's pockets as she claims? What evidence has she got that it will mean lower bills for taxpayers? How is this consistent with the Prime Minister's claims in March of 2023 that council tax would not increase by a single penny when they were in government? Does she accept that she has no electoral mandate for this huge upheaval? Does she also accept that these changes, which will mean every single council employee in two-tier areas reapplying for their jobs, will impact on local services, including planning delays? And how will this impact on her plans to deliver 1.5 million homes in this Parliament, a 50% increase from the 50-year record levels delivered by the previous government? Councils in some areas of the country, including in this announcement, are carrying very high levels of debt, Woking and Thurrock to name but two. What support will she be giving to authorities faced with eye-watering levels of debt? And will this debt be written off? What is she doing to ensure that, as a result of today's announcement, that authorities do not embark on reckless asset disposal programmes and spending sprees? And can she confirm that elections will be delayed for a maximum of a year? Or is it the case, as we have heard, that elections could be delayed by up to 3 years.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Well, I've been very clear that Labour is embarking on a once-in-a-generation project to unlock growth in our regions and shift power out of Westminster and into local communities. I'm not quite sure where the benches opposite are. I can't quite figure out whether the Conservatives agree with it or whether they don't agree with it by that response, Madam Deputy Speaker. But what I will say in response to the Right Honourable Gentleman's questions was, first of all, it will unlock billions of pounds of money so that we can spend on frontline services. And that's why councils have come forward and want to work with us to ensure that we deliver. And all local government reform applications to the priority programme and all applications to the statutory invitation for all two-tier areas will be for local areas to decide and apply. But we've made no bones about the fact that we want to see reorganisation, so money and funding goes into public services where they need it the most. Secondly, Madam Deputy Speaker, he talked about money. We've put £69 billion, a real 6.8% cash terms increase into local authorities. In contrast, Madam Deputy Speaker, 23% cut in the last decade under the Conservatives. So when he talks about council debt, it's his government that has pushed councils to the brink. And he talked about impact on local services. We are working with councils to inject the money and resources so that they can deliver for local people. It's his government that brought them to the brink. He talked about housing targets. I can't believe, Madam Deputy Speaker, he wants to talk about housing targets because his government failed to meet their housing targets every single year and has left us with a housing crisis. The former minister should be apologising for his government's record on housing. Madam Deputy Speaker, we're proud of the work that we're doing on devolution. We're proud that we're working with councils. We're proud that we're bigging up the work of our local authorities and we'll continue to support them, unlike the party opposite did.
Chair of the Select Committee.
Farage accused the Labour government and Tory-run councils of collusion and jabbed. I thought that only dictators cancelled elections, but what I see today is collusion to stave off the threat of Reform UK on May 1st. At the same time, Reform UK released a video calling on Britons to sign a petition to hold the votes, which again warns that only dictators cancel elections and says Westminster is terrified of Reform UK. The party's great Yarmouth MP Rupert Lowe branded the decision an outrage and an arrogant scam after county council elections in Norfolk were called off. Writing on social media, Lowe said their pathetic excuses won't wash. Democracy is inconvenient, democracy is costly, democracy is awkward, but it matters, and the people must be allowed to vote. I will be organizing a protest at Great Yarmouth Town Hall in due course. We must show these petty councillors that their desperate efforts to cling on to power will not be tolerated. In a later social media post, he said cancelling elections, surrendering vital British territory, crashing the economy, assaulting British farmers, betraying Brexit, eye-watering lockdown hypocrisy, and of course, forcing brutal levels of immigration on the British people. Starmer should resign. Rayner's election postponement comes ahead of her rollout of 6 new potential devolution areas throughout England, which he said will come with a view to mile elections in May 2026. These areas are Cambria, Cheshire and Warrington, Greater Essex, Hampshire and Salem, Norfolk and Suffolk, and Sussex and Brighton. These places will get a fast-track ticket to drive real change in their area, she said. While devolution can sound techie, the outcome is simple. It's a plan for putting more money in people's pockets. It's a plan for quicker, better, cheaper transport, designed with local people in mind. A plan for putting politics back in the service of working people and hinting at a 7th devolution area. Rayner said Lancashire is already deciding its mayor, devolution options, and we will look at their proposals in the autumn in parallel with the priority program. In some other news, Robert Jenrick exposes Keir Starmer over the Chagos Islands deal. Robert Jenrick has spoken out in a fiery live television interview taking aim at Prime Minister Keir Starmer over his controversial Chagos Islands deal. Jenrick did not hold back, directly challenging Starmer's actions and questioning the motivations behind the agreement. During the interview, Jenrick insisted that those involved in this deal are actively trying to sell out Britain, undermining our national interests in the process. His strong words highlight growing concern among many who believe this is yet another example of weak leadership and a lack of accountability from the Labour government. Why is British territory being given away? Why is taxpayer money being used in a deal that seems to prioritize foreign interests over our own? These are the questions that need answers, but as usual, Labour seems more interested in deflecting than in being honest with the public. Have a watch.
I think this is the worst deal in history. The reported price tag is more than Mauritius' entire GDP. And when polled, 90% of the British public oppose this surrender deal. And the other 10%, they just don't know about it yet. And the cast of characters who are behind this really stinks. You've got Philippe Sands, KC, who is one of Keir Starmer's oldest friends and former colleagues at Matrix Chambers. This is a man who has boasted about humiliating the UK in his legal work. And then now representing the UK, our own government, is his close friend, former donor, Lord Hermer, the Attorney General. This is the man best known to your viewers as Jerry Adams's former lawyers. These three men, three old friends from the law, now appear to be colluding to sell out Britain. This is such a bad deal that defies all logic and common sense that I think it is nothing short of traitorous. It is really letting down the British.
What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments section below, and make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content.